Perhaps they sent the intern to Saudi Arabia for Night of Champions because whoever was on sound engineer duties, they were either sleeping on the job, they weren't fully qualified to know exactly what to do in certain scenarios, or perhaps the desert heat was getting to them and they couldn't focus. And speaking of desert heat, I apologize if you can hear the fan in the background, but if I don't have it on, I may melt before your very eyes in this here video. But back to the sound at Night of Champions, the commentary sounded shambolic, especially in that first hour. When you heard Jey Uso's entrance music and Obafemi's entrance music, immediately you could tell that something was off with the sound. But I don't know, that first hour on ESPN seemed to be the worst of it. I think it got a little bit better when it moved to the paid portion of the premium live event, but overall the sound was, yeah, kind of terrible. But listen, how you doing? Let's have a quick chat about what went down at Night of Champions. I'm so glad that Obafemi won the King of the Ring, and I feel vindicated because every time I said that Obafemi has to win King of the Ring, if he made it past the first round, he has to go all the way. The same rhetoric was popping up. Brock Lesnar's going to cost him. Brock Lesnar's going to cost him. And fair enough, I can see why that rhetoric was prevalent. But again, if you took over past the first round, then he had to go all the way. The match between him and Jey Uso, nothing to write home about. One of my favorite moments was when Jey Uso early on tried to dip out of the ring, and then Obafemi came out of the ring and just like tackled him from behind. That made me laugh. I even rewound it so I could watch it again. But yeah, Obafemi winning King of the Ring was absolutely the right move. And just because Brock Lesnar did not interfere during the tournament doesn't mean that, you know, he won't pop up and rear his head now that Obafemi has won King of the Ring. But the most important thing is that the plane has been landed and Oba, the ruler, is the King of the Ring. Once again, the right decision to have Io Sky win Queen of the Ring. I'm not going to lie, the Danhausen bit at the beginning, I said, really, when they had that segment on Liv's entrance, I said, okay, so they're going to say she was cursed and, you know, she lost the match to Io Sky, whatever. But however we got there, I'm just glad that Io Sky won Queen of the Ring. And she has already selected Liv Morgan as her opponent for SummerSlam. Cool, makes sense. I would have liked to see her and Rhea on some you still can't beat me type of vibe. But Io and Liv makes all the sense in the world. But low-key, I'm thinking they should have treated it like a, you know, like a tournament in other promotions. You may as well have put the title on the line here at Night of Champions and just had Io Sky win it, because now we're going to see the same match again at SummerSlam, which is fine, but what was the point? But at least, again, the right move was made by having Io Sky be the Queen of the Ring. Seth Rollins versus Bron Breakker was absolutely the match of the night. Fantastic stuff. Everything I would have wanted from the match. And when we had Seth Rollins enter first, he brought in the kendo sticks, steel chairs, a table, and I love how he set up a chair and watched as Bron Breakker made his entrance. Bron Breakker brought in his own kendo sticks, steel chairs, a trash can. I really, really liked that moment of them both having a chair set up in the ring, looking at each other in the steel cage. It kind of reminded me of a less extravagant version of when Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay were stood atop of the steel cage at Revolution, staring at each other from opposing corners. But yeah, Seth Rollins and Bron Breakker, they really put on in this match. Fantastic stuff. The suplex spot, or the superplex spot from the top of the cage, where Bron got busted open the hard way near his eye, I said, ooh, very spicy spot. And then you had Bron Breakker, you know, almost get the victory on Seth Rollins. He landed the spear and whatnot. And then when Seth kicked out, he's like, what the heck have I got to do? His face looked like, oh my gosh, what the heck? And then he decides he's going to try and escape through the door. And then Seth Rollins comes and says, finish the fight, show me who you are. I like that little moment there. And then you had Bron going through the table because I think Seth dodged a spear. And then Seth lands a pedigree, then a stomp, but Bron Breakker still kicks out. So even in his ultimate defeat, he was super, super strong. It was a super stomp that eventually kept Bron Breakker down and allowed Seth Rollins to get the victory. And there is a lot of losses for Bron Breakker. Recently, he lost the rematch to Seth on Raw, lost the King of the Ring opening round, lost the Tag Team Championships. I kind of hope that somehow they disband the division, because what can you really do with it? Like, in the post-show, I think Seth Rollins said that, he's done with it. It's in his rear view. Doesn't mean the vision is done with, but, he's moving on from it. But I hope that they actually are done with the vision. Just find a way to break it up, let it go, and let Bron Breakker and Paul Heyman do their thing solo. Logan Paul is injured. Let him come back when he's ready. Bronson Reed. I don't know what the plan is. Unrelated. When commentary was saying that Bron Breakker has no one with him, no Paul Heyman, no Logan Paul, no Austin Theory, no Bronson Reed, I said, and it shows, because I would have liked to believe that somebody would have told him that gold ring gear was not the one. Trick Williams versus Ricky Saints. I actually really enjoyed Ricky Saints' performance in this match. Loved that he did a little bit of lying, cheating, and stealing. Played some Eddie Guerrero with the kendo stick and getting Little Yachty ejected from ringside. And Trick Williams, it felt like we were really seeing him fight from underneath as a babyface for the first time on the main roster. And that was good to see. However, I don't feel as though his style of offense or the way he was approaching his offense matched that fighting from underneath babyface vibe. He was giving us, but the offense wasn't matching, in the sense of this match to me felt very slow and plodding. And from the side of Ricky Saints, that's okay, because he's being, cerebral, as they were saying on commentary. He's being methodical, being calculated. But I think Trick Williams needed to find a bit more speed in the way that he was wrestling. It felt very slow from his side. And when he did pick up some speed, he went rope to rope and then landed the trick shot, and the match ended. I said, oh, just like that. This match was very forgettable in terms of, I hate to say this, but Trick Williams is a great character, but I still think that his in-ring needs a lot of work, and this match felt like it really, really demonstrated that. But I'm happy that he retained the championship from a storyline perspective. Now we need to move on to him feuding with Carmelo Hayes. Uninterrupted, no third parties ideally, and heading towards a match at SummerSlam. Jade Cargill versus Tiffany Stratton for the United States Championship. This was the shenanigans match. Meechin and B-Fab came out to try and interfere. Chelsea Green came out to thwart Meechin and B-Fab. But ultimately, Charlotte Flair was the deciding factor. She clocked Jade Cargill with a belt shot to the head. Tiffany Stratton hits the prettiest moonsault ever and pins Jade Cargill to retain her United States Championship. I think it would have been pretty cool to have Jade Cargill win the match, although I knew it wasn't very likely, but it would have been cool to have Jade Cargill be the one to end both of Tiffany Stratton's championship reigns. But Tiffany retained as expected. This was the first time the Women's United States Championship has seen a PLE. But yeah, this match, again, was the shenanigans match. Charlotte Flair versus Jade Cargill, it seems like that is definitely on the cards for most likely SummerSlam. But definitely we are heading towards that singles match. And the most interesting thing, I think, to come out of this, I say most interesting, but something that was interesting was when Chelsea Green came out to thwart Meechin and B-Fab initially, and she knocked over, the stand that was holding the belt as she was taking them out. She picks up the championship and she kind of looks at it and smiles, and it's like, okay, so typical, obviously, maybe we're heading towards Chelsea Green and Tiffany Stratton actually finally aligning, but then ultimately splitting and feuding over the United States Championship. But yeah, this match, again, it was the shenanigans match. I think I've said that like 3 times now, maybe not, I don't know. But Jade looked fantastic in her gear as well. They landed the plane. Sami Zayn won the WWE Championship. This was my second favorite match of the night. This was really, really good stuff. And at different points, you kind of thought maybe Gunther will get it, maybe Cody will retain, maybe Sami will get it. But then I was thinking, okay, nah, Sami's not going to get it ultimately. But then he did, you know? He caught Cody in a pinning combination. So Cody had landed a double crossroads, like literally on Sami and Gunther at the same time. So perhaps you can argue that's why it wasn't so effective. That when he went for the second one on Sami Zayn, Sami was able to counter into a pinning combination and pin Cody to become the WWE champion. I like the spot where he went for a package pile driver on the announce table, especially given the mention of Kevin Owens, the SmackDown episode prior. But yeah, I had largely checked out of whatever Sami Zayn was doing earlier in the year. This little character change, I kind of started liking Sami again because it felt as though he was almost the voice of the fan sometimes with some of the things that he was saying. But I'm just happy that we've got some kind of change on SmackDown. I'm happy for Sami Zayn from a professional standpoint that he's finally reached the top of the mountain in this way. But at least there is some change on SmackDown now. We'll see how long the championship reign lasts. It makes it a bit more interesting to see what might happen, you know, going into SummerSlam. But yeah, overall, Sami Zayn got a big victory in his second home, essentially. Love that for him. And Cody Rhodes going to have to chase for a little bit. And he got pinned, so he hasn't really got a leg to stand on for a rematch. So maybe Gunther gets the next opportunity. But yeah, surprise. There was a bit of talk about Sami Zayn potentially winning the championship, and I didn't think it would happen. I thought it might, but I thought, I don't know. But there we go. It did happen. I was interlocking my hair whilst watching Night of Champions, so potentially it made it seem more entertaining than it actually was because I was, you know, doing something else whilst watching this. Perhaps if I was just sitting down and watching Night of Champions by itself, I might have felt differently, but I think it was a pretty decent show. The best matches were Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker, and the triple threat match. The absolute right winners in terms of the king and queen of the ring. It was a very babyface, you know, heavy night of victories. Everyone that went over was a babyface, really and truly. Sami Zayn, even though he's on this kind of tweener heel role in Saudi Arabia, he's a babyface. So yeah, pretty decent show. Nothing much else to say about it. Let me know what you thought of Night of Champions in the comments. And if you like this video, please like this video, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell so that you don't ever miss a video, and I will catch you in the next one.